How much pressure is on the Yankees to win it now that they've finally made it back to the World Series?
I think less than was on them to win the previous rounds. I think they can finally play a little freer and easier. They could never admit it, but I'll put it this way. I asked a friend of Brian Cashman's a couple days ago, did Brian get a monkey off his back by getting back to the World Series? And his friend said the whole zoo. He got the whole zoo off his back. So that's kind of the sense that the organization can exhale a little bit. Now, the Yankees are obviously built around the expectation of championships. They're not taking their foot off the gas and blah, blah, blah. But there's no question that deep down they've already accomplished something that they desperately felt that they needed to accomplish. Manager saves his job. There's no talk over the front office and any kind of changes or anything. I think at this point it's a successful season either way, which you couldn't have said when they were in Cleveland.
I agree with Andy on this. I mean, it's been crazy to be living in the New York area the last few years and hear just the rhetoric around the Yankees and Brian Cashman and Boone. And it's just kind of really surprised me because they've had such a track record of success. So I think it's got to be a bit of a relief to get to the World Series. Now, it's the World Series. The pressure's on. You don't want to get there and then lose. And their fans are not going to be happy if that happens, too. So there's always going to be pressure. But I do think that it's a little bit like, okay, we got here. We're not going to give up. We're not going to relax too much. But don't have to feel too tight, and they can go play their game.
Yeah, well, first up, Brian Cashman's, let's say, end-of-season press conference won't be peppered with F-bombs this year. I think we can say that. Well, he set a record for F-bombs for a general manager. But anyway, I think with them, that 15-year gap, they're definitely sensitive about that, right? And you hear Brian say, yep. Hey, 2017, that should have been ours. The Astros cheated and everything else. And okay, but there's a lot of years between 17 and this year. Why didn't you get the World Series there and too? So there's been that pressure for sure. I think that this does take a lot of that pressure off him, at least for the next year or two. But 2 years from now, if they're not knocking on the door again, they're going to feel the pressure for sure.
I don't know, guys. What happened to winning is second only to breathing, the very basic George Steinbrenner tenet of life. I don't know that there's less pressure on them now. I do agree that it is an achievement that they've made it to the Fall Classic after such a long drought. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. But I really do think they need to get it done now, too, because then we're just going to go back to the same old thing with 2009. Now it's not going to be the last time you got there. That's the last time you won. How come you're not winning anymore?
Correct. That will be the narrative. And especially if it plays out where, let's just say the Dodgers win in 5, or even if they win in 6, but there's a big disparity between the two, then fans won't accept. They'll say, well, you didn't build a team that was good enough compared to the best team in baseball. The other thing is they did make a trade for Juan Soto, and we don't know if Soto's going to be here long term. So I think ultimately there is pressure on the Yankees. They're there. That's great. The goal is to win it. They were built not to get to the World Series, but to win it.